So, class, let us start today with story writing. As you know, there's a portion in your syllabus which is included story writing. All right. Now, before we start with the story writing, let us just have a brief introduction about what do you mean by story. I hope you all know at point or the other. You all have come across different stories in your childhood, in your preschools, even from your grandparents at times before you join the school. Many a times in your junior days, in your early days, your parents might have told various stories to you, right? So what is this story all about? Okay, so a story is basically, it is a work of fiction, or you can say imagination, okay, that is written in easily understandable grammatical structure. Okay, you must write the story in such a way that the reader it must be easy, you must make it easy for the reader to understand it. All right, there has to be natural flow of speech, and at the same time story is meant to be read at a single sitting, and therefore it should be as direct and brief as possible. Do not create a kind of a twist and turn in your story where the reader loses his or her interest. All right, so that do not allow the reader to leave your story in the midst, okay, in the middle of it, and out of various reasons, maybe like loss of interest. So as a result, what you have to do is that your story must be brief, and at the same time it must be direct, okay, as much as possible as you can. And because of your directness and brevity, basically I would say that a typical short story has a very little action and hardly any character development. Now typically a short story has 5 major key elements. All right, please note down those things. The first is character, second is setting, the third is plot, the fourth conflict, and the fifth theme. Now I'll explain you in detail what do you mean by character, what do you mean by setting, what do you mean by plot, conflict, and theme. Character. What is character? Characters are the animals or people in the story. Now characters can be from the real life, or it can be even from imaginative. The story revolves around character, and that is why they are called protagonist. All right. Next is setting. What do you mean by setting in a story? Setting answers when and where in the story. Okay, many times you might have read stories where various places, various dates are being mentioned. So that is what is the setting is all about. It answers when and where in the story. It tells about the time and location in which story takes place. That is called setting, which is a very major key element of a story. Next comes plot. Many incidents or events that take place in a story, and how the author arranges these events is called plot. Okay, now plot should have a beginning, a middle, and at the same time an ending. Conflict. What do you mean by conflict? Conflict is very essential to plot, because without conflict there is no plot. And what is conflict? Conflict is a situation in which there are opposing ideas, okay, there are opposing opinions, or you can say opposing feelings, and it is a situation in which it is difficult to choose. So that is what is conflict all about. Okay, next goes theme. What do you mean by theme in a story? Theme is the main central idea of a story, and theme is actually the author's main idea that he is trying to convey in the story. All the other elements of the story, they revolves around the theme. Okay, now there's like in mathematics and all, there are certain formulas, right? I remember during my school days there was one formula which was being taught called BODMAS, BODMAS, bracket of division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. Likewise, there is a formula. I would say that I would use the term formula even for this to make your story a best story, and that is coder. CODER, coder. What is coder? C stands for collect your ideas, O stands for organize your thoughts, D stands for draft your story, E, which means edit the story, and R, which means revise the story. So this will really help you. This is a kind of you can say a perfect one of the best tips for you how to frame a perfect story. Now, stories can be written in various ways. Okay, it can be written in many ways. Now, the first and foremost that I would like to tell you that how a story can be written is from the given outlines. Many a times you may get questions where only you may get an outline. Now, what is outline? Now, you are given the outlines of a plot. You are given the outlines of a plot to build up the story, and this should be easy and interesting, from the plot framing a story. Next comes story based on a moral. Now, here a moral is given, such as, for example, say, all that glitters is not gold, or any other moral. Haste makes waste. So, like such type of morals you would be given, and you are required to illustrate the moral with the story. Okay. Next, you may also get story in a way like from incomplete hints. You may get some hints, but which are incomplete. And here, you are given a couple of opening sentences, and you are required to continue it. It needs imagination to form a story with an incomplete hints. You just have to go on with your imagination. Now, there are some more tips that I would like to share with you in order to frame a short story or a story, whatever. The first thing is purpose. Why are the main purpose of the story? A story is basically a narration of a set of imaginary events which we often use to convey a moral message. So that must be clear in your mind, the purpose of the story. Next comes context. Now, use phrases like once upon a time, or it happened so, or like some of the famous like long ago. So such type of phrases you can use. Context. Next, introduction. Now, introduce characters through dialogues or narration. That is the most easiest tips that I can give you for introduction. Next comes plot. Now, what is plot? As I've already told you, description of an event. Okay, you can describe an event in a plot or accident or such sort of things. Climax. Climax is basically the end of the story, and it is most interesting. It must be sort of unpredictable. Okay, so if you remember these things, I repeat once again a quick recap of the tips. That is which goes with the context. It goes with the developing a plot, then introducing character, reaching climax, and then at last ending the story. All right. I'll also share the required materials with you, and please go through this particular explanation that I have shared with you, or the talk which we just had, and at the same time go through the TLM which I'll be providing you. Okay, in case if you do not understand or if you have any query, you may get back to me. All right, God bless you.